everybody, I thought I'd just put a little prelude to this video. It's going to be a hangout. Christian and I came together today and made a little video. I didn't even really know what we were going to talk about, but Christian had sent me this link to Lake Lanier, and obviously the video says that there are race courses, cemeteries and things down there, and me and Christian knew that. But as we started to look at this a little bit more, we found out more information, so this is the hangout. Oh, I've got to turn it up, hang on.
High alert as thousands of people flock to local lakes for Memorial Day. Taking a live look right now at Lake Lanier, where it looks peaceful and beautiful out there. It is hot, though. Sadly, there have already been 2 drownings here. Tonight, CBS 46's Carolyn Ryan has new details on the latest one we brought you as breaking news last night.
Memorial Day weekend will never be the same for the family in Old Whitehead.
They were all here and were witness to the efforts.
It will now forever mark the weekend their loved one drowned after a day out on the lake. The man from Perry, Georgia, was bringing his jet ski into the Shoal Creek boat ramp just after 8 o'clock Saturday night when it overturned. He didn't know how to swim and wasn't wearing a life jacket. He went under and never came back up.
I didn't go past like right there.
Zachary Brackett with Hull County Fire Services was one of the first on the scene. He says by 11:30, divers pulled the victim's body out of the water. The other was a 61-year-old man who drowned near his boat dock on Lake Lanier.
How deep it is there? Well, they should be allowed to swim in there, should they?
On holiday weekends.
Brackett says with an influx of people flooding area parks and lakes, he's expecting even more emergency calls.
I know that all the campgrounds are full and they're expecting just massive amounts of traffic. And with that, lake traffic. And today will end up being the busiest day because it's the day everybody's still got tomorrow off.
He says inexperienced boaters and alcohol are major factors when it comes to deadly incidents on the water. Will Powers, an experienced boater from Florida, agrees.
It gets dangerous. You know, there's not much you can do with inexperienced boaters except stay out of the way.
Today will be his first time on Lake Lanier.
I have heard it's very crowded.
But he's taking every possible precaution.
Just be safe and always have your life vest on and just be careful. That's what we're going to do.
Reporting from Lake Lanier in Hull County, Carolyn Ryan, CBS 46 News.
Hello everybody, we are here today. I'm having a hangout with Christian. Hello Christian.
Hello Karen, hello everyone.
Yes, we've got a few things to talk about here. You sent me a video link for Lake Lanier, and it seems that quite a few people seem to die in this lake. Don't they, Christian?
Quite a few, yeah, in the hundreds apparently.
And what it is if we go to let's have a look, it's got up a bit. Obviously this is a different, we'll play this. Basically, what it seems is that there's a whole community underneath the water now, with cemeteries. They knocked a bridge down. There's a racetrack, and they didn't demolish any of it, and they just filled it with water. And this is why the people are dying, because they obviously get caught up in. Oh yeah, and the trees, they left the stumps and just cut the tops off. So maybe people are banging into tree stumps, whatever. I don't know. It's very crazy. And what did you say? We've got all these rules and regs.
Yeah, I mean, health and safety, we've had it pushed down our throats our entire lives. And yet, see, everything about health and safety, it was totally ignored in the creation of this. And one of the other things that I've listened to this video and the other one is the fact that, what about the search system? If that hadn't disassembled, I mean, it was as the guy says, there may be whirlpools, probably what's dragging people down. You know, if it's still active, you know, you get in the air pocket and all of a sudden, whoosh, you get sucked in.
Yeah, and the strange thing is that you said that we've got all these rules and regulations that are put in place, except when it comes to things like this. Because now you
Exactly.
know that there's masses of rebar down there from a bridge, so that would be quite a lot of rebar. There are houses and there are other things down there, including a cemetery. Well, that's probably not there anymore, is it? With all that water on it. But they shouldn't be allowing people to swim in the water with tree stumps in there, should they?
Precisely. And did they even bother to remove the graves?
No,
You know?
they didn't remove anything. They just put water on the top.
You know, it's very sinister that
Well, shall we play the
health and
next?
safety was.
We play the next bit of video to explain to people what the news are saying, and then we'll talk afterwards. Yeah, Christian?
Okay.
Start it again. Sorry, I was going to start that again. Hang on. Right, here we go.
11 people have died in drowning or boating accidents, including a father and son. Charged with responding to all of those calls are divers with the local fire department.
11 Alive's Caitlin Ross shows you what they deal with under the surface of Lake Lanier. It's dangerous and deadly environment.
Clear and calm on the surface, Lake Lanier is anything but.
You can get yourself in trouble really quickly.
Lanier was built in the 1950s to provide drinking water and hydroelectric power for Atlanta. Recreation was an afterthought.
As they were building the lake, they raised the water level up to a certain point well below what we know of today as full pool, and then stopped filling the water.
From there, construction crews floated on the lake, cutting off the trees about halfway.
So today, those stumps are still there.
Oh, right, that's it. That's what it is. It's stumps.
Forest land
and if you don't realise they're there, you could hit it, I suppose.
Old homes, barns, even a racetrack, which
There's a racetrack in there!
You could see the tops of the stands.
A racetrack!
For spectators to show up for the next race. It's all good now, but when the next drought comes...
When that does, everyone needs to use extreme caution on the lake.
The Forsyth or Whole County dive teams respond to every rescue and recovery call.
Generally, within the first hour, we're in what we call rescue mode. We're hoping that we can rescue someone.
No, I don't want to lose a diver.
Divers deal with frigid temperatures, near zero visibility, and all of those underwater hazards.
The bridges are like the trash bin for anyone traveling down the roads. They blew the old bridges in place, so you have concrete, rebar.
The divers work in teams, one person in the water and the other on the shore. They're tethered together by a rope and communicate by tugs on the rope. Divers say they never know what they're going to find.
It's bad enough that you got a loss of life, but you see their grieving family. And that's really why we do this. I couldn't imagine as a father, as a brother, you know, as a son to see one of my loved ones disappear and have to go by this lake every day and just wonder. That I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
That is a tough thought to deal with. So the biggest takeaway from our day with the dive teams, always wear a life jacket, even if you are an amazing swimmer.
Yeah, that's right. And there are so many hazards and deep drop-offs. You never know what's beneath that surface.
Then Christian and I found this channel, and she's put her own little collection together. She streamed this 23 hours ago, Risflex. So go over to her channel and look at her stuff, but she starts talking about this lake, and it's like, wow, it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. Anyway, let's listen to her talk now.
They'll be drinking on the lake. It's obviously going to cause for impaired judgment.
Greg Galloway said he's been boating on Lake Lanier for years, and safety comes first. 83 people died on Georgia waterways in 2021, and more than 25 so far this year.
What's up, y'all? It's Risflex, and welcome back to my channel. Locals around Lake Lanier in Georgia are saying that the lake is cursed after it claimed the lives of over 200 people in just 30 years. So that's like 7 deaths a year. And it's just a lake. There's no waves, there's no current. It's literally as calm as can be. So statistically, that makes absolutely no sense. What's underneath this water will leave us all wondering if this has something to do with how many people are dying there. And I'm going to give you some insight into this, a little bit of an idea of what we're looking at here, okay? The water in this lake.
At the bottom of Lake Lanier lies almost fully intact towns, ferries, a racetrack, and multiple cemeteries. The Georgia government, in its determination to create Lake Lanier, bought up the entire town in order to clear the space for the lake after they received congressional approval in 1946. However, they just decided to let the water cover up the town rather than demolishing them. Lake Lanier has a decidedly eerie feel about it. There have been an unusual number of freak accidents and deaths on the lake. For example, in 2011, there were 17 deaths alone. Many of the people who drowned have been recovered. People have reported feeling arms and legs in the water, but none have been able to find them right after, leading people to believe that spirits still roam the lake.
Okay, so the government bought this land in 1946. Okay, that is the same year that the CIA was incubating. A little bit more about Lake Lanier. It was built and it's operated by the United States Army Corps of Engineers. Hopefully you have digested. Here we go. There are around 90 parks spread around its 680 miles of shoreline. Lake Lanier is home to many international sporting events, such as the Olympics. It was also the site of the 1997 Bilderberg Conference. I find it particularly interesting that not only was this a holding site for a secret society, but also some of the people that passed away at this lake were found with characteristic injuries similar to secret society marks. Okay. Some of the bodies of these missing people, according to Ted Garner, Director of Media Services and Assistant Professor of Communication at Brno University, said that some are found with missing toes and no hands. Doesn't that sound interesting? Doesn't that sound similar to some of the other cases that we have found all over? Some people think this could have something to do with the Tartaria theory.
Tartaria, the largest, most advanced worldwide empire in history, intentionally destroyed by the satanic cabal. What's intrigued many of its researchers is the declassified document by the CIA, which mentions the deletion of this country's history.
The CIA has documentation through their website, through the Freedom of Information Act requests, talking about the deleted history of Tartaria, the agenda to eliminate technology and advancements of this civilization. People are saying, through mud floods, drowning certain areas, burning them, destroying them with earthquakes and whatnot. Some of this technology and advancements in our life have been suppressed, but we have some remnants of it to remind us all over the world.
Although its remains are still everywhere, we've been inundated with a false historical timeline. Our knowledge was erased and forgotten. These buildings were used for harnessing the ether and converting it into free energy. Their boats ran off free energy. The columns were electric, and the cathedral domes and towers were power stations for transmission of clean, free, and wireless energy. Later on, the parasites put crosses and other religious symbols to conceal the original purpose. Life back then was of community, of oneness, of health, and of technologies hidden from our timeline.
Entire communities, buildings, racetracks, boats, all of this has been eliminated. Why was the recreational lake that they put in place of this community so much more important than the community itself? The government and the military take out this community and put in a recreational lake. Now, some people might be like, well, Tartaria, that's over in the Russian part of the world. Well, let's not forget, the Smithsonian discovered ancient Egyptian artifacts, relics in the Grand Canyon, seemingly on the entire other side of the world. And this is not the only example of artifacts being discovered out of place on our planet.
of the Georgia Guidestones to maintain humanity at a certain level of existence, flooding the earth with mud as the rich and powerful hide in deep underground bases and eventually repopulate the earth. In today's video, we will go over TARTARIA and the Great Mud Flood Reset. We can see how times and dates have been changed by the rulers in 1582, switching to the Gregorian calendar. Even the Bible was changed by King James in 1611. Out-of-place artifacts all over the world. Is the Earth actually on a plane? We hear about lost cities of Atlantis with wireless electricity in the cities and incredible buildings. Keep an open mind as we bring new evidence, as we question the history books of what we...
All right, so giving you a little bit of insight into what could possibly be the reason why hundreds and hundreds of people over the years are going missing at this one particular lake in Georgia. All right. I'm curious what your thoughts are in the comment section. What have you collected on the topic? What do you know about it? Do we have anybody that lives around Lake Lanier and can validate this?
Wow then, Christian, what quite a lot of information really when you start digging then. Starts off just a news saying people have died on a lake, and then when you actually start looking at it, you find it's got racetrack, cemeteries, houses, bridges.
It's uncanny, isn't it? To me, it sounds like a quick makeover. You know, when somebody wants to get rid of some evidence, it seems like it was a rush job to get it filled up. You know, why wasn't it properly taken care of? When, you know, all our lives we've had health and safety more or less shoved down our throats, and even today we still do. But yet, everything was ignored. Absolutely everything. Like you say, it had multiple cemeteries, you know, never mind the sewage works, which probably weren't adhered to either, and it was still like semi-operative, you know, and the people getting sucked down by whirlpools because there's pockets of air here and there, you know, that could be why they still.
Because obviously we will have just played her video. What do you make of her saying that people are being found without arms and legs and hands and things like that, specific things?
Well, I mean, the fact that one of the guys said that about the Vegas whirlpool, that perhaps it is a place that sucks people down, and it's probably a place where people have dumped bodies that cannot be identified. Because, I mean, she didn't say anything about teeth. It's normally the hands, feet, and teeth, isn't it, that people get identified by, you know, the prints. So that's fairly obvious to say that these bodies have been dumped. You know, that's the only way you can really see it, isn't it? You know, she didn't say that their bodies had been bitten into by any fish that might be in the lake. You know,
it's a bit, I bet you when they're playing this news and they're saying that these deaths are happening on the lake, they're not really explaining the whole truth, that maybe some of the people are getting stuck or tangled up down there in places in it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many hazards to avoid, and especially if people are just driving by on a nice, hot, sunny day. Oh, let's stop. There's a lovely lake there, not knowing it's dangerous.
So what were the villages called? Because obviously these are places that have gone. She's putting it down that there's obviously technology down there, and that's why they covered it up.
Yeah. I would probably hazard a guess that it probably did. You know, like I was watching Melted Reality, and how some of these dams were actually built in regions where the melted stuff from previous civilizations were. So are they just strategically built for that reason? I'm not 100%.
Well, it's another place that's been abandoned, isn't it? Because they've put water on the top of it. So there's obviously a couple of villages and towns in there, and they've just covered the whole thing up.
Yeah, as you said in previous times when we have done a blog before about this, it's not the only place where a town's been totally covered over by a dam or just filled in, basically. That's what they've done, isn't it? What's the quickest way to fill something in to get rid of evidence? It's water. And it's the same with mines as well as places that we've discovered.
Yeah, well, thanks for sending me the link to this. Obviously, this person that's playing now, she only had a hangout about it a few hours ago, yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it, this lake should be called Lake Eerie, if anything, because of the way it's been formed.
And isn't it strange that the military bought it?
Usually the case, the military-industrial complex takes care of things, doesn't it?
Well, it's just if I should have kept a bit of a diary about all the places that we were finding abandoned, but I think there's just too many. But this is just like one of those places that was there and isn't there anymore. I've done videos about it myself on my channels.
Yeah, it's like one of the friends that I listen to, and he says it's either fire or water, how to discard any evidence. And that's the sort of case we're looking at here, I think.
It is a bit eerie. It does seem that they might... Well, I don't know what's happening. Are the people accidentally dying, or are they killing people and shoving them in the river?
Either way, it does sound eerie, doesn't it? All means. So, but yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that mafia used to do, is to hide who the people were, smash their mouths in and get rid of their fingers and toes
But if that's happening and they're finding them, there's no way they'd last that long in the water, so they can't have been done very long ago. Whereas this, there's no date when they actually filled the water in, is there?
Well, it depends on oxidization, doesn't it? Depending, like you said, that it's very deep in places. So, the deeper it goes, the less oxygen, I suppose, within the water.
Do you think there's big churches down there then? Like she's showing it's she's saying, is it technology they've covered up?
Well, I mean, we've come across a lot of places where we see these old churches, and they are old. They're ancient old, if you like. I mean, we get told that a lot of them, we get told that most of them were built in the 1800s, when in fact, a lot of them probably a lot earlier, maybe 1,000 years, 1,500 years. We can't be sure, maybe even 2,000 years, at the time of Christ, because some of these places are astronomically, unbelievably built, There's so much effort being put into these places, and we know they hold a skeleton frame, like the woman says in her little video there, that they were built to collect ether energy, and a lot of people agree on that these days, because the evidence is still staggering. And Poland is one of these places that has a lot of this technology still within its buildings, not on the outside of it.
I think really they should have told the truth that in America they had 3 Romes and how much the Romans had been there. And they should have told the truth about all that. They haven't done that, and they haven't told the truth about this place either. But it seems that this probably happened not long after they gained it back from the Mexicans. Because Mexico and Spain and all that, maybe Portugal, they all owned America. I don't even know what the like they got the independence from the UK, which ends up being a corporation. That's what they got from us. We did not own America like they're saying. It was run by other people, especially the Mexicans. And I feel really bad because all they've done in our history is make fun of the Mexicans, and yet they had most of America. And then they didn't. And then I think that some of the stuff we're finding is them destroying their stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's like when you look to Southern America, like Belize, Colombia, Venezuela, Argentina, basically it's like the old continental Patagonia, that all these people are more or less the same sort of tribe. So it was belonging to them. They say it's the Spaniards that invaded, and most of them are Hispanic, but it's obvious that there were people there beforehand, what they call the Aztecs, the Maya, and so on. So, yeah, we don't know what the real history of it all pertains to, but it's quite astonishing that they would just do what they did without destroying what was below. You know, like I said, if the town itself had a massive sewer system and it's still operative, it would act like a vacuum at points. You know, a bit like a Hoover. You know,
well, they're not dropping people into that bit there, hoping they get sucked in.
No, but I mean, if it's still active, it would have like a swelling effect, wouldn't it?
Right.
You know, if air pockets develop, and all of a sudden,
it's just finding another place like this. Like, I've got a video waiting to go out. I haven't put it out yet. It's about in Philadelphia. They had this cemetery, and basically the college wanted it, the land for a start, and then not just that. They basically, the council of authorities around are saying that it's not very good for the cemetery with pollution. And you think, well, if it's not very good for the cemetery because of industrial things and smoke and all that, then it can't be very good for us. But anyway, so that was another reason why they said the cemetery had to be moved. And then they also, what they did was, there was 28,000 people buried in there. They got in touch with 700 and 300 replied. Now, they got reinterred with their tombstones. The rest don't know what happened to their bodies. They've just got half an hour away. There's a field with all these little plaques of the names of the people. They put these plaques out in a field, a couple of fields, because obviously there's 28,000 of them. And they took their tombstones and they shoved them in the lake to shore up the lake. And now you can go and visit the tombstones down by the lake. And they were building a bridge. So you think there's 3 reasons why this cemetery went. They just got rid of that. Like that. Where's the authorities there? How could they put all the tombstones down there? There was people's tombstones. And they've gone into like a, people called it a certain, you know where they put people who have no names and have no money? That's where they've been buried like. But they did have names. They did have money. They were buried properly.
Yeah, a pauper's grave, you mean?
Yeah, so it isn't really one grave because I don't think the bodies are in there. And then when you see pictures of them, whatever they were taking out, because first of all, Mickey said, well, the reason they didn't get in touch with all of them is that some of those gravestones are really old, and so the people wouldn't be here anymore. So they don't write to most of them because they're so old. But when they were taking the gravestone, the coffins out, they were huge. They were like Dracula ones.
The irony is that he says there's multiple cemeteries, so it's not 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. He says multiple. So
yeah.
Is it something that these graves contain? You know, if there's that many graveyards, was it something that they had to hide to stop people asking questions who were buried there or what? You know, where the bodies moved on? You know.
Well, these seem to be that they just put the water on the top. The other ones they did move, or what happened to their bodies? Because in the field, you just little plaques. There's no way when the guy's walking over them that there are tombstones in there. The tombstone, the coffins were so big. Someone said giants, but they were just like enormous, great big. The sides are too high. They're like great big boxes. So they've got to be really old. Mickey thought that they would have probably perished, but they were taking out big tombstones, and that doesn't seem very like what we've had recently, does it?
No.
So there's something there. They obviously got rid of that graveyard because the tombstones were so old. Didn't want people to know.
Yeah, it almost sounds reminiscent of Poltergeist, where they built over the top of a complete cemetery, and eventually that gets washed away. So will these bodies eventually wash up, you know, from their graves? You know, it's insane, isn't it, that they would go and do something like that, unless it was to hide. It's got to be something like that, you know, without removing any of these cemeteries. You know, I thought that's what they normally do. But none of the videos that I've watched speak of the graves being dug up and moved on. So what's with that?
I mean, they couldn't just tell us the truth. Maybe it wasn't them. Maybe it flooded.
Well, no, as the videos say, they were done by the military, deliberately flooded.
I mean, we have learnt that where there's been inland seas, and they're not there anymore because they say Russia diverted the water, or China diverted whatever it is, someone always diverted the water, and now they're like deserts. But this one's, you know how much there was the one around California, the big lake there, and then it's what is it? It's Bombay Beach, that one, and now it's inland and it's much, much smaller than it used to be. So that lost a lot of water, and here it gained masses of water.
Well, this is it. This is one of the things that they do, from what I can gather, in certain places in America, as Mike says, that they've more or less drained areas and just chucked it straight into the ocean. You know, normal drinking water, if you like, that we use in various places in the US just recently. So, yeah, it's all bizarre, but we know about Tartaria, or the time of Tartaria, and however long it was washed away in some form of a mud flood.
Well, that's what me and Nikki say. Blackpool Tower was a Tesla tower, and it kind of looks like it got flooded. And someone wrote in and said, because that's what me and Mickey said. We didn't say it on the video, but then someone wrote in and said it was flooded. It was flooded, like they lost land, and it was flooded for a few years. But that obviously before, and then someone said there was a big flood, 1812. So that tower had to be there before then, and it was a Tesla tower, and now it's a pleasure tower. And in there, you should look it up, Christian. It's obviously a video on Sun and Moon, but you can look up the dance hall there. It is absolutely amazing. You imagine wigs, beauty spots. It is that old looking in the ceiling. It's that shape. The ceilings are painted. The whole thing is painted out. And they're saying this was all done in the late 1800s, more like the late 16 or 1700s, they mean.
I think I've watched a video by somebody else that's done one a few years back, but come to mention it, when you do look at Blackpool Tower, it definitely looks like a Tesla tower, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you can find in the pictures, I'll show you the tower is on top of a building, and so's that one. I never really thought much of it and didn't particularly take that much notice of it. But once you see the dance hall, oh my God, it is beautiful. Just look up Blackpool Dance Tower.
Yeah, there was one, another one very similar. I think more or less on the same side of the coast that Dave did, and that was all more or less washed away or decimated.
Well, we've seen this, haven't we? Because the original map of America, every name was like London, Birmingham, Oxford, Paris, or you name it, Berlin, Rome. They had different names, and then they changed the names, I think, when America got its constitution.
Yeah.
And that's
like
that's the late 1700s.
Yeah, New York, New Amsterdam. So you know that the Dutch were over there, the French were over there, the Spanish were over there, we were over there, you know. And it's bizarre that Alaska itself was sold back, I think, for $1 from the Russians to the Americans or something. So we know that there's more to all of this than meets the eye. But it, like she says, it leads back to Tartaria. You know, there is definitely a connection with all these places being flooded, and they always seem to have the old tech within them.
Yes, will we ever know the truth?
Well, like I said to other people, I think the last few years we've been nothing but being revealed to about this, that, and the other. So, you know, if they're following a script or what it is, but we've definitely been in revelation, because Tartaria's been around out in the open now for quite some time, and there's more and more people investigating it, and the evidence.
Whatever it is, I call it Tartaria because it's history we don't know. But it could be that it's the Aryans, and then the Romans came. I don't know, because people obviously write to me and tell me these things. They say, oh no, that's because of this, and that's because of that. It's quite hard to, because we don't have it in writing, we don't have pictures of it, we don't have films of it.
No, but I mean, it's like one other video that explains about all these buildings. When you talk about the Roman buildings, you must talk 99.9% of the buildings had angels or statues on them, and you think, why? Was it when the world was a different place entirely? You know, We know there's Roman temples, Roman buildings worldwide, absolutely worldwide.
Yeah, so why would they want to be destroying these ones unless it was even more tech here?
Because I think it's like they say, they that control history will go on to continue and control the future. And
Do you know what, Christian? I watched this video the other day and I took some of it out and I've put it on a video on Unscrambled. And it was this two guys that went on holiday in the 1930s and they were filming around Europe. And I actually say, if this is real, because you never know anymore, do you? If this is real, I want to cry because the buildings that they're filming are just amazing.
Outstanding. Absolutely.
And none of them will be there now because we had the freak wars and they're not, most of those won't be there anymore.
I mean, so many researchers that I followed say exactly
what they look like is they looked, I suppose you could say Henry VIII or Elizabeth I, so they were like Tudor houses amongst all the Romans, and they got rid of all these really old buildings, which is maybe what they did with this place. It's not that there's technology on the buildings, they're just very old buildings. And they don't want you knowing that somebody else ran it before them. Because don't forget, America, it's all turns in, English found it and then it's America.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like the statues. There was the Renaissance age, but what came before was more pronounced, to be more perfect, more realistic, if you like.
Well, you know what they do is, if you're going to relate it back to the Bible, it's on a sequence of so many years. And then what it is with the gravestones is they just wait 50, 60 years and then nobody's going to be alive to visit the graves. And then that's when they take over. And everybody's forgotten then what it was all about. And this is the case with this lake. Nobody understands that there's towns and things under there and they shouldn't be swimming in it.
Yeah, precisely. Like I said,
it's like they've forgotten to tell everybody because now nobody's alive, probably, from when they put this water on.
Yeah, when they did it. And there should be warning signs right around the lake, lots of them, to get people to stay away from it, stay out of the water, like they do over here with the quarries.
But we find that, don't we, that they say all these rules and regulations, and then we find abandoned prisons, abandoned towns, abandoned schools, abandoned hospitals, all full of equipment. So they don't follow the rules they set, and most of them break hippo laws because biohazards are left inside, and people's records are left inside. So they obviously don't care in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I've got qualifications within health and safety, various types. When you've had it shoved down your throat or your neck all your life, and then you find out about these places, like you just mentioned, the hospitals and everything else, is that they don't follow the rules, but they set the rules, and we follow the rules, even though I thought they ignore them. Well, you have to lead by example, don't you? That's how we're taught at school, lead by example. But that's not being recognised within what they've done here.
And it actually says at the beginning that more than 200 deaths in the last 30 years. So maybe it was 30 years ago they did it. But that seems an awful lot of deaths. I would say you don't go in it. And they haven't got any signs up or nothing. So there you go.
Wow.
Well, I think she made it because this was done, the article she's looking at was the 30th of May, so it's only yesterday, or the day before, and then, of course, another man dies, but they're saying with more than 200 deaths, that's 30 in 30 years, and that's quite a few a year, isn't it? It's about 7 or 8 a year or something.
But it's like in relation to what you've been saying the last couple of years, that the time frame of World War I, World War II, is like the eradication of, like you said, buildings and architecture, in so many places.
It seems to me, Mickey found this map, and then as you zoom in, you can see that, according to them, they're saying this is where all the bombs landed in a sort of 6 or 8, 12-week period. London was destroyed. And you think, well, why weren't they protecting us? London was destroyed. Whoever it was won. They destroyed London.
Yeah, I mean, because we weren't born at the time, we know that there was a lot of destruction. The film evidence itself.
No wonder they made everybody leave London and sent the children away. And now we don't know whether it's our own planes that were destroying it, and Germany's was destroying theirs, and the whole thing's made into whatever it is, and it wasn't.
I mean, there's.
But we did realise Tartaria, they were still gaining countries until the Second World War. Really, they were still gaining in that. But it seems that the empire, the Queen runs it, seemed to sort of not collapse, but got changed. And then we've got wars, and that changes even more. And a lot of people won't even know that we used to run Israel for a while.
That's right. I mean, when you look at the wars that followed World War II, like Korea and Vietnam was the big one that got me inquisitive about 15 years ago, when you think that there was more bombs dropped on Cambodia, which had nothing to do with Vietnam, you know, than World War I, World War II. So what were they dropping all the bombs there for? Just for business? Oh, let's just all drop them here. Or was it the fact that they were destroying architecture over there? I mean, Cambodia has still got a lot of the old world buildings, but it's a big piece of land, isn't it? You know, a vast area to cover.
1 second, Christian, 1 second. We just changed the picture there, and obviously there's some videos there. Look, the strange and haunted history of Lake Lanier. It says over here, the scary story of Lake Lanier, many say is America's most haunted lake, and they're saying over 600 deaths.
Yeah, that's what I heard as well. I think it's probably more than that. But,
and then it says Lake Lanier's hidden city, Oscarville.
Oh, is that what it was called? Oscarville?
And then another one says Oscarville, the town submerged by Lake Lanier. 1 second, Christian, we're just going to have a quick look. Well, I went over to put in the same thing as I did before, but it brought me up news articles. It doesn't now, but it talks about Oscarville. Shall I have a look then on in the internet about that, Christian? Because it would be nice if there's any pictures of Oscarville.
I mean, yeah, I mean, when it was buried, I mean, was that one of the old names for it, you know, the original
Yeah,
names?
I'll go, let me just check first of all before we carry on, see if we can see it. Hang on. So here's pictures of the tombstones in the waters, it's saying at Lake Lanier. The only place we can find where they're talking about Oscarville is in personalised videos. This is somewhat like what this is the racetrack which they've filled in, and so forth. Doesn't really talk about Oscarville and Lake the history of Lake. Right, okay, Lanier. No, an entire black town buried in under. Let's have a quick look at that. 1 second, we'll just go and have a look. It says entire black town buried underwater. The Main Street Journal. That's what this says here. So obviously we're not making this up. That's a bit weird then, isn't it, Christian?
That is very, very, wow, that's blowing my head off. Because, I mean, one of the videos you did a long time ago was, there was loads of black people and they looked well-to-do. You know, they didn't look pauperish or poor, you know. And I wonder, could that be in a place like that?
Well, the pictures underneath say old town resurfaces and secrets of the legend of a part of, so... Wow.
That's blown me away.
Shall we just listen to a little bit? Let's just find a video with them talking about Oscarville.
One of the most visited man-made lakes in America. Also holds the title as one of the most haunted, dangerous, and deadliest bodies of water in the world. Created by the completion of the Beaufort Dam on the Chattahoochee River in the northern portion of the state of Georgia, mainly in one of the most historically racist counties in America, Forsyth County, Georgia, covering 38,000 acres. This sprawling lake opened in 1956, and it was named Lake Lanier. What makes this lake so notorious is the alarming number of deaths drownings, and missing person cases that involve this massive man-made lake. Since the lake's formation in 1956, over 500 people have died there. Over 200 have died there since just 1994. It's multiple theories on why Lake Lanier is so dangerous, from debris and rubble being left from its construction to more spiritual theories of the lake being haunted. Some say it's haunted because of the spirits of a group of the Army's Corps of Engineer graves that weren't relocated before the lake's finished construction in 1956, or the nearly 30 victims who went missing at the lake but their bodies have never been recovered, or the local famous ghost story of Lady of the Lake that originates from 1958 when two friends, Delia Mae Parker Young and Susie Roberts, supposedly skidded off of a local bridge while crossing the lake after they supposedly stopped for gas and skipped out on paying for it. But I'm here to give you another theory of the hauntings that obviously torment the area that Lake Lanier covers. A little known history of a hidden and forgotten town named Oscarville, Georgia. Beginning as a small rural town in 1870 in Forsyth County, approximately 40 miles north of the city of Atlanta, the town was labeled as an agricultural marvel because local farmers who were black fought off the boll weevil infestation, and the white farmers, using the freed slaves' agricultural technology, was able to save their farms and capitalize by stealing the freed slaves' agricultural methods that ultimately saved a great number of farms during the Great Depression. So quite naturally, within the practice of white supremacy, especially during the early Jim Crow era, envy and hate towards the black community's agricultural success in Forsyth County was starting to boil over. The racist white community's destructive and murderous thoughts would be put to action when a series of false allegations against numerous black men of the community attacking white women was reported. On the night of September 5th, 1912, Ellen Grice, a 22-year-old white woman who was the wife of a highly respected white farmer, alleged that two black men, Tony Howe and Isaiah Pike, tried to rape her but stopped the so-called attempt and ran away when they were surprised by her mother. When the news of the allegation spread rapidly, it only took a couple of days for the then Forsyth County Sheriff William Reed to detain the two black men along with 3 other black men that weren't initially in the report. Their names were Fate Chester, Johnny Bates, and Joe Rogers. All 5 men were locked up in the Forsyth County Jail that was in Cummins, Georgia, which is the county seat for Forsyth County. Despite the witness evidence that a well-respected local black pastor, Grant Smith, had that exposed that the alleged victim, the white woman, Ellen Grice, was caught having sex with the black man at a local barbecue, was the reason she was falsely accusing the other black man to protect her ongoing infidelity with the black man she was caught having sexual relations with. Now you guys stay with me on this. Word from certain family members stated that she tried to coerce the 2 black men, Tony Howe and Isaiah Pike, who walked up on her having sexual acts with 2 of the other 3 men that were eventually accused. She tried to coerce them with payment of sexual acts for them not to tell anybody. When they were not interested in engaging in sexual acts with her, and with the fear of being exposed to violence from the white community, they turned her sexual coercions down. She knew that she had to falsely accuse those 2 and eventually all 5 black men of rape before the black community could validate her ongoing affair with multiple black men. Even though the white and black communities practiced the same Christian religion, a well-respected black preacher tried to expose the evidence, but it was not enough to slow down the savagery of the white community. Instead of them listening to and respecting the evidence that a loved teacher of the Christian faith presented, because he was black, the suspects were black, and the alleged victim was a young white woman married to a known white farmer, The crowd detained the pastor and horsewhipped him in front of the courthouse, to the point where a sheriff's deputy had to lock the pastor in a courthouse vault to save his life from the hate-filled white mob that was trying to storm the courthouse to kidnap the black pastor. After the attack on the black preacher, a rumor spread through the racist white community that blacks were at a local church barbecue, and they were planning on setting fire to the town. So armed white men started patrolling the streets of Cumming, basically terrorizing the black community to prevent the falsely rumored plan. Certain black men also started to arm themselves and mobilize to combat.
So, the black town, all these things happen with this woman. You and I don't think that's the reason that they put the lake there, but they will use these things to put the lake there. So that's one of them.
Yeah.
Because I said to you, in the 1900s, I was watching videos at university. It was England, but there was dark-skinned people in the video. So we were in harmony then, because they were getting university degrees. Somewhere up north it was. I can't remember which town it was now. It wasn't Durham, but it was up north. So we were living in harmony then in 1905. This happened 20, 30 years later when they brought in all the racism and slaves and all that kind of stuff. But we were all slaves when we went to America in the 1800s or 1700s. We were all called the same thing. We were all called the same name, black, white, pink, blue, begins with N. I don't understand why the dark-skinned people got called just that and it turned into racism, but they've used all that. Maybe this is just one of the cover-ups to destroy places.
Well, yeah, obviously, and I mean, when you look at history, that we both know now that there was plenty of castles in Africa, and it begs the question to say that we know that there was plenty of white slaves in them days, and even days after. So it begs the question as who are the main controllers? You know, who are the ones guiding all this? Because there seems to be a time where you got black and white slaves and black slaves, but it's the confusion of history. You know, that's why we do what we do, because we're trying to find out the true reality of things. You know, with the melted reality.
They started killing people. They've actually got some people hung in a picture, and there's a plaque up saying the lynching in Forsyth County. But obviously that's not quite, well, it's obviously round the lake. So they obviously used this situation to do things, didn't they?
Well, yeah, this just goes to show that how easily it is to pervert the mind of the masses, you know, even way back then, you know. And it's the same today, isn't it? We've got the television, and so many people watch that, and they are so indoctrinated by the television, you know, bow down to the television. It's the new religion, and it has been for 80, 90 years, whatever it is.
Yeah, well, they've lied to us. Christian, you know I've got to go very shortly, so we're going to have to finish this video. But we wanted to bring it into people's eyes because maybe a lot of people don't realise that there are towns under this lake. They've never heard of this lake, but it's another weird situation where obviously they're using the colour of people's skins and I don't even know. Maybe it did happen just like they said. I don't know, but I don't believe that's why they flooded the land and destroyed all the towns.
No, there has to be a bigger reason.
But they just do what they want when they want, don't they?
It sure seems that way, and it's not the only place that we know where places have been sunk deliberately, you know, or flooded deliberately. So it's just one amongst many, isn't it? You know, even the older places that we know of.
You know, don't you, that I went through a list of where they changed all the names. It took me nearly half an hour, and we'd only done Texas. There's other states, isn't there? There's 30 odd of them. So goodness knows what they did. And they seem to put dams over things. Or in South America, there was saltwater seas that were healing people. They ruined that, and it flooded. They did the same there. I don't know what it was. Is this a world flood that has done? Not this one. They made this one, but mostly maybe the things got destroyed by a flooding or something. I don't know what it is. All I know is it happened to many, 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 many places, and places have changed names or towns have gone, and oh my God, it's just wow.
I remember the one you did with the opening the floodgates. So this seems to be apparent throughout history as well, that it's like one flood that was Tartaria, the world flood of Noah. You know, we don't know. Not as a rule, we don't really know. We can't be 100% sure. But we know they had technology in ancient times. So, and one of the things that does reset places is either flood or fire. You know, and this is apparent right through history.
It is. Well, this is a very strange place. Obviously, I've just learnt about it today. We were having a hangout. I'm sure we were going to talk about other things, but we spent the whole time doing this video. So I don't actually know much about Oscarville or anything, which, you know, I don't know. But anyway, maybe people can go and look at it themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said about the name change. I mean, when I looked at it, I thought, are you kidding? You know, that many places? And it is a multitude of places. It isn't just one area. It's more or less the entire part of Texas, you know.
What it is we've been controlling this country for many, many centuries, but now we're going to tell everybody we only came here a couple of 100 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems that case. That it's like 1912 to 2012 reset, you know, that period. You had World War I within that period, World War II, you know, and how long is this stuff that we're going through right now going to last? You know, why can't they just let the world roll on normally? Why do they have to go through these processes? Is it because we're awakening to the true reality we live in?
Something like that, Christian.
It's got to be, isn't it?
There's just so much. I'm not saying that there aren't things abandoned here. In America, there's just so much abandoned or broken or hidden.
Yeah. Tons of it. Tons of it. I mean, when you look at the pictures of where they're removing the mud in so many, like Kansas City and various other places, that, you know, you're not talking about a little bit of mud. You're talking like, I don't know, 10, 15.
There's something else as well. I never thought about this, but when I had my hangout with Miriam and she was talking about Amsterdam and she was talking about the city Amsterdam, that basically is built up like Venice. So it's another built place. It's not sinking. No one ever moans about it or says it's the same as Venice. And you're like, wow. And that had loads of windmills on it, taking the water out.
I remember as a child, I was only young. I'm not sure how young I was, 4 or 5 years old, not much more than that. And my father drove all the way to Holland, and I can't remember exactly where we went. It might be in Amsterdam. But I remember driving for hours and hours on end, and it was completely flat. Flat, 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 flat. You know, tons and tons and tons and tons of fields of flowers, and even as you're driving through the windmills, carrying through it was all flat land. And you think, how can it be so flat? You know, flatter than what we are, put it that way. Tons more.
The whole thing is crazy, but we've got to finish now.
Okay.
Don't go. We'll just say goodbye for this video. It's probably nearly an hour long now, Christian.
All right.
But thank you. You've brought that into people's awareness now.
And I'd say so.
Thanks very much for making the video then.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.